Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Rina the Wolffe, and today I am going to share my opinion about whether we can remain friends with our exes. I have many stories about this, ridiculously enough, but I am going to share my opinion, especially if you are in the same shoes. I have been asked more than once to remain friends, but what usually happens is that when I feel hurt, I just try to sever all the ties. And whenever I go through a breakup, I don't want to be friends. Because usually I am the one who is broken up with, and my pride simply just would never let me be friends with someone who has hurt me. So when I was very young, I think I was just around 19, 20. I was already in university. I used to date a girl, and in the end she was like, listen, it's not working out anymore. And I was like, okay, but we can still meet, because we were supposed to meet on New Year's Eve. I have no idea about the year. And we met. And I know it was over. We were officially over, but I still visited them. And you know what? It was intense. We talked a lot. We watched films, and we pretty much acted like it can be made up. But it couldn't be. We acted like a couple for days. We had sex even, and then it was just nothing. Before I left home to visit her, I wrote her 2 letters. One for my friend and one for my love. And I told her, listen, I wrote these, and when I leave, just read these, whichever will apply. So when I got home, I was like, hey, have you read my letter? And she was like, yeah. Which one? The one for a friend. And I was freaking out, and then I was like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. We should just sever the ties, and that's it. And that's what happened. It was happening again in 2014. I was really crushing on this girl. I was not in love with her, but what happened really hurt me in a way that I could not recover from this whole situation for at least a year. I really liked this girl. We were a lot in common, especially traumas and mental health stuff. And I was still very young. And I believed that we were, doing fine, that we have common ground, that we can talk about anything and everything. And there was no judgment at all, ever. So what happened was we, kept meeting up for about 2 months maybe. And we were video chatting one night. And all of a sudden she was like, could you be my friend? And I was just like, no, why would I be your friend? I love you. And I did not understand what she was going through, and this part is still hazy. I have no exact idea what she was going through, but she was not in love with me. She liked me a lot. We had a lot in common. We had fun times together, but she was not feeling it. And instead of telling me the exact situation, she just, started to grow, being distant, and I was like standing there like, what the hell is going on? So after a while, we called it quits. I was the one who called it quits, technically, but I was a fool. I was really young. I was still in my early 20s. And one day we met, and she tried to avoid me, but I was like, hey, listen, I think we should talk. I will just walk you to the train station then. And she was like, okay. So we were absolutely silent, and we were still smoking before her train departed. And I was like, you know what? Someday you will find a girl who you will risk everything for. And she understood nothing of it. So what happened was I walked her to the train, and this was our last conversation. So she asked, are you going to be okay? And I was like, yeah. Are you going to be okay? Yeah. And she left. And I knew it was over, but it was still hurtful because, we had so much common ground. We had a lot of deep talks, and yet it didn't work out for some reason. Years kept passing by, and about 1 or maybe 2 years later, I bumped. Not really. I didn't bump into her. So my first official girlfriend was visiting my hometown, and she was like, hey, if you want to meet up, because she already met my cousin. And my cousin was like, listen, she's here, she wants to meet you because, she keeps telling me that you were the best for her. And I was like, listen, we were kids. So I met her with my cousin. And she was like her former self. She kept drinking and drinking and drinking, and she tried to hit on me. And I was like, dude, stop. You have not changed. This is ridiculous. Years have passed. This is ridiculous. I have changed, and you have not changed. You are not even trying to be a better person than you were years ago. And I'm not saying that she used to be a bad person or that she's a bad person. No, but her personality was the same. And I think this is still my personal opinion. You keep changing little by little. Your fundamental traits will never change, but you change. And this is normal, to try to be better each and every single day. We try to have sex or something more intimate just as before, and it was not good. And it's not because of her. It was just weird. Because I changed a lot by that time, and she hasn't. And after that, she tried to keep in touch, but I just did not feel the urge to be in touch with her. And I just didn't want to hurt her. But after that, we have never spoken again. So right before I moved to the capital city, I met a girl, and we didn't really have anything because she kept changing her mind about our situation. Sometimes she wanted us to get together, sometimes she wanted nothing to do with this whole situation. Understandably, she was very young. So I knew it would never happen. I was about to move, she was about to stay in my hometown for a longer time, and I was like, okay, so no. But what really hurt me was her behavior. Like sometimes it was yes, then it was no, and then it was yes, and then it was no, and then maybe, and then no, and then yes, and then no. And I was like, listen, no, I can't deal with this right now. So we severed the ties again. And I have always severed the ties. Because for me, it's really hurtful to think about that. I would be friends with someone I was so in love with. And it was not each and every single case, okay? Sometimes I felt less, and sometimes I was out of love. But in most cases, I was like, it's not happening. And I knew it was not happening. Anyway, years kept passing by, and for a long time, I haven't met anyone I wanted to be with. You already heard about Zelda. After that, I started dating Zelda, and it was happening so quick. Like, we weren't even together, like officially. We met around my birthday, and then we decided to get together, and she moved in with me because the lockdown started, and everything was fine up until a point, like after almost a year, when we had nothing to talk about, really. And it was painful because I felt the distance growing, and I just wanted her out. When she said that it was over and things are not working out, I was like, really? I'm doing anything and everything for you. You want something, you get it. And then we just had a really big fight about that she would move out. She didn't even try to be friends anyway. For a good while she was like trying. But then I was like, no. Because she hurt me really bad. Especially towards the end, when I felt the distance growing. And even after I realized that the distance was growing between us, I just tried to be more giving than any time before. But that's happened, and then you know Muffin, my previous girlfriend, was really not giving it all. She didn't even try to be friends anymore, and I was okay with it. We actually blocked each other on every possible site that we could reach. It was nasty because we both said things I am sure we didn't mean. I was like the most hurt after she broke up with me, and here's the reason why. I had spent 2.5 years with this person, and the red flags have always been there, and I didn't care. I didn't care because I thought that things might change, but this is exactly the situation when you are in love, right? So after she just moved out like that, and I said a lot of things I didn't mean. She didn't even try to be friends, and there were like 2 key sentences in this whole thing. Before I left, on the weekend, she decided to pack up all her stuff and leave. Before I left and I took my train, she was like, yeah, you know what, I love you. In my own stupid way, but I do love you. And I was like, okay, sure. And she actually left me a farewell letter, and she was like, in the end, she was like, I will miss you somehow still. And I was like, why would you say this? Why would you say this? Do you want to be friends? Do you want anything to do with me? Or are we like officially done? What do you want? Just tell me. And then we didn't talk, and we still have not talked ever since. And I don't think I actually want to be friends with her. The current situation is much more different. My current situationship ended after more than 2 months, just before we could meet up. I don't want to talk about the details, but it's over. And I'm not gonna lie about it, this is like the most hurtful of all the situations I had. With this girl, I had the most common ground. We disregarded the age gap. I treated her like a princess. And I'm not trying to say that I'm a hero. I'm not a hero. I have my own flaws. She has her own flaws. Even though we have not really talked about it, we always had deep talks, and like at least, I mean, we talked a lot about different things, or there were actually like movie nights, or we kept watching trash, or we roasted our exes. It all happened. Or we talked about mental health, which is also really, really important. Or we talked about past traumas, which is also very important. However, this ended just a while ago. What happened was, she said she wanted to be friends. And I said, no, listen, I'm in love with you. I can't be your friend right now. There was a little bit hesitation because sometimes I felt like I could be her friend. Sometimes I was like, no, I'm really in love with this girl, and that she would be so perfect, that we would be so perfect together for each other. According to her, something is missing, and I'm not going to invalidate her feelings or her thoughts about the situation. So it's over, and as the days keep passing by, maybe yes, we could be friends, but let's summarize this whole thing. You can't always remain friends with your ex. This is my opinion. And there's this saying, or something similar, that if 2 exes can remain friends, they are still in love with each other, or they have never been. And this is the situation. How do you know that you can be friends? And there are a lot of questions you actually need to ask yourself, like, am I strong enough to do this? Am I still in love with them? Because if you are still in love with them, will you be strong enough to watch them and support them when they start dating someone else? Will you be strong enough to support them no matter what happens? And these are the real questions you will need to ask yourself. You don't have to invalidate your feelings just because you feel like you could be friends. Maybe you just need some time to be friends with this person because you had so much common ground, because before you fell in love, you were already friends. But this is not always the case, and it's okay if you're not strong enough to be their friend. Even though you offered or they offered to be friends, it's okay to say no. You have to think about it and give it time. Give it a lot of time and give them some serious thinking, because this is how it goes. Maybe if time passes, you will be ready to be their friend. Or maybe you think it's a good idea to risk it all because you still love them and it's better to remain close to them than have nothing at all, right? But is that a good strategy? I mean, it's up to you, but in my opinion, keeping them close as a friend just because you still love them or you want to love them or you think this is your grand strategy to get them back, it's bullshit. I'm not saying that it would never work, but you should never do this just because you want to get them back. That relationship has ended for a reason. And yeah, maybe you are right, it was not the right time. But if you get back together as friends, will you ever give yourself or them the time to think about things? All of my life, I regretted only 3 times that I have said no to an offered friendship. Only 3 times. Back in 2014, back before I moved to the capital, and right now. And most probably it will change as I keep going on dates, because life goes on and maybe I can be friends with an ex someday, and maybe I will regret telling someone that I don't want to be her friend, maybe. But this is not the time to figure out. I already have way too many regrets about that. Okay guys, I did not really plan to have a longer video about this, but feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Can you still be friends with your ex, or it's a no-go? If you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up. If you want more of this content, please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell to get that notification. And I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.